Welcome to Crafting with Kim. I'm Kim, and today we're going to create holiday cards out of nothing. And nothing, I mean bubble wrap and plastic forks. Come join me. Welcome back to Creating with Kim. Today we're going to try something a little different. Sometimes you can go into different types of stores and see inspiration everywhere. You can use inspiration from Pinterest, magazines, the newspaper, any type of inspiration to get you jump started in your art. Today, I'm going to use some inspiration that I found in a magazine. So you can see here that they have a couple of different layout designs that they've created with these beautiful blues, reds, and whites. And they've used some different dotted stamps and some washi tape. And I really loved the look of these. So we're going to give these a try today. Something very similar. My own design, but using the background similar to what you see here. So let's get started. The first thing that I have is my card base. It's plain white. There's nothing on it right at the moment. And I'm going to go ahead and using a thin paint, which I have here, I'm going to load up my little sponge dauber with a little bit of this paint. Just tap right into the top there. Go ahead and I know it's already loaded, so I'm going to close that up so it doesn't dry out. I'll just squish that around so I get a nice even coat on this foam here. And then on the white, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to squish that all around. You can see how nice and vibrant and bright that is. And it dries super quick and it's super fast to go on here. You can see it's not even taking any moments at all. I'm going to go ahead and use the rest of that. And since I'm going to make more than one, I might as well go ahead and do another one. So I have another one right here. I'm going to go ahead and squish that color on. You can see I haven't reloaded or anything, and it's just adding a ton of color just as my base. Now these are going to be a base. I'm going to add more color on top of it. Remember the design that I had showed you is my inspiration. This is a little bit more of a teal than the baby blue, but when we go ahead and we add more layers of color on top, I think that we're going to be happy with it in the end. So I have that. I'm going to just use the heat dryer just to dry that super quick. It is dry, you can see, but I'm going to put more layers of stuff on top of it. So I really want it to be nice and dry. So I have both of these. I'm going to just use one for now. I'm also going to be using a stamp set with some Christmas trees on it, as well as Merry Christmas presents, a little bow. So it depends how I'm feeling, which one I'm going to use. This particular stamp set also came with 2 small stencils, so we might use those as well, just why not? So I'm going to go ahead first, and I'm going to add on some more color. So I have here just some white, cheap white paint anywhere, and I'm going to go ahead and squish that right onto my mat, which I'm going to keep nice and clean. Using a brayer, I'm going to go ahead and squish that right onto the brayer. You can see I'm making a big mess here, and it's probably way more than I'm going to need. So I'm going to try to squish out a little bit more of that so I get some on my brayer, and it's not going to completely get rid of the blue color, but it's going to make it a little bit lighter for me. So if you're afraid of how much you use, which I just think it might be a little bit more than I want, I'm just going to go ahead and roll that off just a couple times on a paper towel. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of color to this. Now so you can see I've already brayered off most of the color, so I'm going to go right in. Just add a little bit. Don't want a ton, just enough so that it almost hides the blue or makes it softer, gives you some depth and some interest to your card. So you can see how that's working out so far. And I think I might actually take the other one and do the same thing because the cards are going to look similar. The fun thing about this is we're making holiday cards. You want them to look maybe similar, but have a little bit of different element, different surprise to them. So again, I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to go ahead and add that on top. I'm going to go ahead and grab some more of that white paint, tap off a little bit extra. Go ahead and add that to my card. There we go. And I think I like the fluid look of how it's got the overlap there because I'm going to add even more layer to it. I'm gonna put my brayer off to the side for now. And I am going to, again, just use my heat gun just to dry these just for a moment. You're basically going to be layering. Everything is just one simple layer on top of layer on top of layer. And in between each layer, if it's not dry, you might not get the true color that you want. So my next color is actually going to be red. And if I had just used that, it might turn out pink. And I'm not sure that I want pink for my holiday cards today. So I'm going to just go ahead and use this little heat gun. And the heat gun is just drying that acrylic paint. And we're all set. I can touch them and nothing comes off on my hands. So now I'm going to use the red paint. I'm going to give it just a little shake. You always want to make sure that you have it all fully developed inside there by just shaking it up and getting all those colors to mix and match. And I always have like this little thing on the top. You just take that off and throw it away. You don't need that. You don't want that to get inside of your art either. Or maybe you do. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to squirt a little bit of that out. And this time I am going to use just like, you could use a credit card, but this is just like a little scraper. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load on the scraper just like that. And you see you could use the brayer if you wanted to, but my brayer currently has white on it and I want to use it for other things. So I've used my scraper, loaded that up, and let's grab just one for now. And I'm just going to add a little, oops, look at that. See how that just kind of adds a little bit of color right to it. And it's nice and red, which is nice. So I'm going to add a little bit more over here and maybe another little piece right there. And now I'm going to continue to do layers, do itty bitty layers. So sometimes a little bit goes a long way. So I'm going to add another one to this one. And this one, maybe I'll do a little bit different design. There we go. And maybe just a little bit like that. And again, it's just going to be layers. So I've got another layer on top of that. Here we have some extra. We won't need that right now. So I'm going to just tap that right onto the paper towel so that I don't get it all messy. And go ahead and use the heat gun once more to just dry up the colors that you've done. Now you have on another workstation, on this workstation that we're using, our palette, so to speak, you have paint that's still wet. I can still see a little bit of shine and shimmer going on over there. And I'm going to use that to create the little bubble effect. Now they used, in their design, they used a stamp that had these little dots on them. I don't have a stamp today that has little dots, but what I do have is a mailer, an extra little mailer that I just received, as a matter of fact, today. And it's got dots on it. And you can see I've already tested it to make sure it works. And you can see how the individual dots are coming out. That is perfect. So you sometimes found objects for your art. So I'm going to use this mailer again, and I'm going to use a fork for lines. I know it's just a plastic fork, and we're going to use some plastic fork for lines. Let me show you. I think we'll do the mailer first. So I have the white paint on here still, and I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more because I see I used a lot on my art already, which is fine. Add a little bit more. Brayer that down just so it has a nice thin layer on your work surface. Go ahead and take my mailer, dip that right in. Lift, it's got paint on there, and then I'm going to just, where I want to, add some paint right onto the red. Look how nice that looks. Pretty cool, huh? And we'll add a little bit more maybe over here. Just subtle, but enough, okay? I'm going to reload to do the next card. I'll load this right up. And this isn't going to be the only time that I use this. I am also going to use it with the red, because I think it's going to look really cool on some of the red lines, just like they did in the book. I like that look. I have a little bit there, and I think I'm going to stick to this little area down here. Here. Oh, I got a little mushy, but that's going to be okay. You can see how it's got a little bit of mush there, but sometimes mush is good when you're using mixed media like this. Next step, as always, just go ahead, dry that so that we can add our next layer on, which is going to be, I think we're going to use some red bubble wrap, and we're going to add some layers on before we go ahead and we add on the fork design. So you can see, just heat that real quick. Go ahead And this here, we're going to just take paper towel just to make sure that there is anything extra. We don't want the pink, remember. And it's plastic. So it comes right off, super simple, easy. Anything that's wet anyway will come off. If you're rubbing with a paper towel and it's not coming off, it's probably dry and you can use it. So you can see how easy and clean I got that. So I have here my red, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dip right in. You can see, get a little bit more there so that I have full coverage of red, because I didn't use the brayer. So you can see I got a little bit of red there. And I'm going to use this one here, and I'm going to try to get it just a little bit. You can see how it comes out right there. Again, just a little bit. A little bit goes a long way sometimes when you're creating different mixed media effects. I've got a little bit more there, maybe down here. And I always like to do a little bit of a triangle. So I'm going to add more there and one more at the top. You can see I have created some different types of looks. Next step, heat it, make sure that it's all nice and dry, and then we're going to use our fork. So I have a little bit of paint on the bottom here. I'm going to just tap my fork into it. And again, it's just a plastic fork because I like the lines. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll that on. Oh, see, we've got some little lines there. And you know what? Nobody's going to know that's a fork when you're done. Just you. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more here. And it has a lot on that particular one. I'm just going to tap it off onto my workstation here because it just had a lot. I'm going to go ahead and add some here and maybe some more lines. And I know you're thinking, this is kind of getting weird for a Christmas card, but it's the background. This is all you're doing, is you're just creating a background. You just look at adding interest layers to your background. I'm going to go ahead and add the top to that so it doesn't dry out. Put my brayer and my fork aside. And then again, I'm gonna just need to heat set that little bit of paint that I have on there. This particular one here looks like it's a little bit thicker than the last one. But we're gonna go ahead and try to heat that and get that to be dry. There's just so many different things. You could find coin on the side of the road. What's really great is I've actually used gears and things from my husband's a mechanic, and I've used those as stamps before. So things like that, anything will work. So now I have, again, my 2 layers, and now I want to add on, oh, I forgot about the stencils. So maybe I'll add some stencils now that I see where I'm going. I was gonna use the stamps and start going with the stamps, but I still have the stencil, and I can actually bring some whiteness or lightness back to this. So I have this one here, which is Snowflakes. I'll place that right on top. And we will grab a new one of these here. So I'm going to take this one off. See, I told you I'm very fluid sometimes. Sometimes I don't know where I'm going. Sometimes I have a perfect idea and then I'll just turn paths and go somewhere else. I have just another one of these because I want it to be white. Okay. I'm going to grab just some white paint again. The other one was starting to get low, so let's hope this. Perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and dip that right in, just like I did before. Loaded that up, and then I'm going to go ahead and smush that right on. And you can see it's just loading the paint right in there. Now I have the stencil on top, and I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to tap that on just to get the snowflakes to poke through. If you are worried about seepage underneath, the important thing to note is that you don't have a ton of paint on top of your foam here. And also, when you're doing that, if you're really worried, you could tape your stencil down and that would help too. In essence, the time I don't tape, and also because I'm don't mind getting a little bit of the design flawed. But you can see I have a nice little snowflake there. So now it's starting to look maybe a little bit more holiday-ish. So I'm going to also do that to this one because that way this one will also look a little holiday-ish. And I'm actually going to do it down the side because this to me is already looking like a tree. So I'm already seeing the design inside of that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add this here, and I'm going to go down the side of that. And sometimes it's nice to have the design go off the page. It's actually a nice interest, nice look. So if you are feeling like it doesn't fit on the page completely, that's fine. It draws your eye if something is off the page. It really adds an added interest to something. So you didn't have quite enough paint on there, so I got a little bit there and a little light. So I think I'm just going to leave it because it has a nice little look to it, and I know that it's there. It just, I didn't have a ton of paint on my stencil or on my foam to go through the stencil. So now I have created, again, two similar but very different cards. And now I know that this one here, looks like a tree. And I have a tree. Wouldn't that look really cool, like right there? But if I stamp that right there on there now, you're not going to really see the design. So I need to create a little bit more interest with a different piece. So I have here just a plain white piece of paper. I'm going to go ahead and this here, I think I'm going to ink it up in some black. You know, actually, the black might go right through because it's very dark. You can give that a try too. You can see how nice that's going to stamp. So now that I know that, I hadn't tried this before, I might actually go ahead and do that. I did just feel that my paint was a little wet from something. It just came off on my fingers, and I don't want it to come off onto my stamp. So I'm just going to go ahead and heat that. Could be the little bit of paint I put through the stencil. That happens sometimes. It could also be this. This looks a little wet to me. I can tap it off with my paper towel to try to get it to stay. There we go. But you can see how just very quickly this is drying, very quickly how this is moving. All right, so now I think I will go ahead and I'm going to add this right on top. So I'm going to ink this up. Again, when I ink up my stamps, I like my stamps to be perfectly flat, and I bring the ink pad to it. That way I know how much is on there, and that way I can get full coverage of ink. I'm going to go right ahead and I'm going to put this right on top. And now the one thing is that this is probably a one and done. So once I put that on, and if you moved it or anything like that, you might have to start over again. But oh, look at that. Looks nice, but it's not perfect. I can see the design, but it's not like standing out to me. So if I had taken something like this maybe and cut it out, but this is very plain compared to what I have. So if you have something like this and you have, well, that paint's a little dry, we'll add some more to it. Or maybe we'll add the other thing over here. So we'll add this is my red paint, and we'll add some. Try this first, see how that looks. Looks very messy at the moment. There we go. Yep, very messy. Maybe we'll cut it out. Always fluid. Always adding extra little bits to it. I'm not going to cut the whole thing out. I'm just going to cut out the tree. I'm leaving the star as the background there. But you can see, actually if I snip that right off, there we go. You can see how this is going to have a nice different look to it than the other way. So it's going to actually stand out just a little bit. And this is wet, so now my fingers have some red on it, which is fine. But you can see how I've got just a little bit here. And if I put this on top, it's really going to pop that out just a little bit. And it has a little bit of white, but also has that red that you're showing there. And if I use some foam dots on top of that, I can go ahead, add that right on top with some foam dots. One there and maybe one more down below. Peel off the back side. Super sticky. These foam dots are always super sticky, which is nice because they always seem to be attaching lumpy, bumpy things on. I'm going to go ahead and, there we go. So we've got my little Christmas tree here with my little snow coming down. Is there anything else? Oh, maybe I will add the ho, ho, ho. Just something to showcase. Another stamp here. And my ink, my acrylic block went somewhere. There it is. Add that on. And again, just going to go ahead and ink that up. And I'm going to flip this around so I can see it, so I can stamp that ho, ho, ho right on down there. All right, so I've got some ho, ho, ho. Now, I'm not quite done because I'm going to add some more textural interest to this, but I like how the stamping is going, so I'm going to leave that one. And so my second one here that I have has really great snowflakes at the top. So maybe this particular one, I will just stick with a nice little Merry Christmas. I could stick that right in the middle there. And oh, this one actually comes with a snowflake. So I could add maybe another like snowflake interest, or maybe a heart, because that looks nice too. Oh, I'll do the heart. That's really cool about the clear stamps is you can almost see the design. If you're looking at it, you can almost see how the design is going to look. I kind of like that. And we're going to give that a go right on top because of the interest, because of the areas that I'm putting it. So I'm going to go ahead and ink that right up, right on top of here. And place the Merry Christmas right in the middle so you can see it. There we go, isn't that nice? And we'll even add the little heart. Now, I don't have a red ink pad here, but that would have been really cool if I had a red ink pad. I could have added that on. We could put that right here. A little added interest there. Now, I'm going to add a few more things onto this. Now that I've added on my paint layers and my stamp layers, I'm going to add some more added interest. I have here what they call washi tape, and it just comes in, it's sticky on one side, and it comes in different designs and different styles. And I'm actually got, this one here is actually a road, and I don't really want you to think that it's a road, so I'm only going to use part of it. I'm going to use a little bit at the top, and that's going to add added interest so that your eye gets drawn to the black stamp ink pad that we've used. That's always good to stick with the color scheme that you have. If you are using a different color altogether, sometimes your eye gets confused. So we're going to add, and actually I'm down here, I'm going to add this one down here. Sometimes I get very confused as to where I want it. I know I want it on there, but not sure exactly where. And this one, I'm also going to do one maybe down the side. Okay. The good thing about washi tape, if I don't like it, I just peel it back up and put it somewhere else. So here is one that has red dots that I just happen to have as well. I'm going to use this. Oh, look, pieces came off. Perfect. Just adding little pieces on, right on top. This is just more textural elements, and it's a great way to use up some of this great stuff you have in your stash, as well as just different textural elements to add to a mixed media holiday card. Now, I could go to town afterwards and I could add some more color to these particular little holly leaves in here. I could add some of the bluish color that I have just to give it some more dimension and look, design to it. You can see I'm just ripping these in tiny little pieces because I want to use it, but I don't want it to be overpowering. If I used it the way it was, you can see that's quite a bit on your paper, on your design, and it's maybe not exactly what you're looking for. So little bits and pieces here and there is perfect. You can add things like cheesecloth. The cheesecloth is great for adding also some textural interest. So I'm going to add just a teeny bit of that. Go ahead and just cut it like you would the washi tape, because it's just going to bring, it's not actually going to stay white. It's going to kind of grab hold of some of the colors of the acrylic paint. Once you add it on, you can see it's just going to have like a nice little texture there. I'll add that down here, maybe as like some snow, some little bit of snow. Just move that around. And I have some matte gel that I'm going to use to add that down, because this is not sticky. It's really legitimately just cheesecloth, and so I need to stick it down with something. So I'm going to stick it down with some matte gel. Place that down. Go ahead and add a nice liberal amount of that, because you're adding something textural, something that is thicker than paper. So you want it to kind of be something that you're going to embed in there. You can see how I'm adding that right there. Going to push that in. Now, the longer you let that sit, it can sometimes Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it will pick up the colors of the acrylic paint underneath, which is really cool. If your acrylic paint has been sitting there for a long time, so say you've had that acrylic paint down for a while, it might not pick that up. So that's something to note. But because we're just doing it now, it might pick up a little bit of that, and it might have like a pinkish hue or a bluish hue depending on which one it's picking up. So just so you note, sometimes just the fibers pick up the acrylic dye that's in the, or the color of the acrylic paint dye that's in there. I'm going to add some more down here. Again, it's just some little textural element. And I also have some ribbon. So I have some gold, because why not, right? I know there's no gold in it so far, but there isn't any metallic color at all, which is nice. So we can actually add it and nobody will really notice. So we can add, nobody will notice that there is no more of it in there. How's that? You could, if you wanted, while the acrylic paint is wet, you could actually toss on a little bit of glitter and it will actually stick. Acrylic paint basically is a matte gel or any kind of adhesive until they add different types of emulsions, but until they add the pigments in them, you can actually use it as just a glue as well. This one's not going to stick. I might need to use a different type of thing on there. This glue here, this gel is just a little bit thinner than I'd like to add this on. Yep, not going to stick. You can see how that works, but now that I have that down there, you can either just go over it and leave it, or now that I know that's not sticking, maybe we'll just add a little bit of glitter. I have a piece of regular paper here. Tap that, add that on. You can see it really adds a lot, so maybe even more than I like. You can just scrape that off with the back of your brush to just add some more added interest, because you don't want it to be completely colored, because you just added that washi tape there. You just want a little bit of it. Like I said, sometimes I create something and it looks really great, and other times I have to kind of play with it until I like how it came out. I don't want to cover up any of my washi tape, so I'm just kind of cleaning it up, and I'm not cleaning up with the side that's got the matte gel on it, otherwise that would be not useful. So I have that, and it actually kind of looks cool with the little bit of gold in the corner there. It has like a nice little look to it. It looks very, very textural there. And I could, now that I know that, I could gently add a little bit inside the holly leaves there and sprinkle maybe a little bit of this inside those, just to add a little bit more interest. Oh, and it actually added on top of the heart, which is really cool. So I think I really like this one. I think this one's going to be done. I'm just going to add a little bit of the, you could add a little bit more of the gold to the little bells and the little balls that are on top of the flower here, or you could just leave it the way it is. So I hope that you have enjoyed making some really fun, quick, easy mixed media cards today. And don't be afraid to use your mixed media in your next birthday card, anniversary card, Christmas cards, holiday cards, any kind of cards. I hope you enjoyed today's mini class. If you have any suggestions for a future episode, please let us know at keptcreations@gmail.com. Until then, stay crafty.